Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're doing a comparison between a Dodge Challenger Hellcat Jailbreak and a Shelby GT500 Mustang. Before we get into the comparison, I do want to mention that my car buying course is available. Link in the description down below if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car. Let's get into the video.
This is the quiet mode. Sport. Oh, this is the normal mode. And then this is the sport mode, which, I mean, all these are extremely loud, just saying. And then finally we've got the track mode.
Starting things off under the hood of the Jailbreak, we have a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's good for 807 horsepower and then 707 pound-feet of torque, so that's 10 more horsepower than a Red Eye and 1 less horsepower than the Demon on pump gas. It's funny, they won't beat the Demon with anything, even if it's just 1 horsepower. Now, popping over to the GT500, we have a supercharged 5.2-liter V8 that goes through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. It's good for 760 horsepower and 625 pound-feet of torque. So we are down on horsepower and torque compared to the Jailbreak, but the GT500 is a lighter car, and you guys heard the exhaust notes. I do prefer the sound of the exhaust with the GT500 to the Challenger, just my personal preference. Now, popping from that to the front of the Jailbreak, you guys will notice the car changed color because I had to do an under-the-hood shot of a Challenger Red Eye because I didn't have any under-the-hood shots of the Jailbreak from the auto show, so, had to do what I had to do. Anyways, you guys can see here with the hood scoops, just like the Hellcat Red Eye, have the same setup, and, frankly, like the regular Hellcat as well. And then you guys can see here with the LED accent lights, they look great. And then you guys can see the Hellcat logo there in the center of the light, which is another cool design touch. And just notice all of the venting, right? You got to have lots of airflow for that 6.2-liter supercharged V8, and overall it's a great looking car from a front end perspective. Now, popping from the Jailbreak to the GT500, completely different aesthetic that they're going off of. So you guys can see the venting there in the center, which looks so cool, so aggressive. It's one of the hallmarks of the GT500. And notice we got the stripes, which if you get the painted stripes, it's like a $10,000 option on the car. And apparently 1/4 of GT500 buyers will pay the 10 grand for the stripes. But you can get vinyl ones for less expensive. You got the hood pins on either side, which is pretty cool thing to keep the hood so it's nice and planted there on the body, right? Got the giant Shelby logo there in the center. And then notice you've got the fish scale accent lights for the headlights and the projector bulbs, and then you guys can see the orange light down below, which is the turn signal for the front end. Notice the front splitter's super aggressive. This one does have the track pack, and again, this kind of looks more like muscle car mixed with sports car, and you can see all the venting. That's kind of what they're going for with the GT500 from an aesthetic perspective, but yeah, it looks great, I think, from a front end perspective. Now, moving back over to the Jailbreak, we've got 305 millimeter tires here on the Jailbreak in the front and the rear, because this does have the wide body package. They won't put 315s on a Challenger because, again, that's what the Demon has. And they won't beat the Demon in any respect. It's so weird to me, but it's I don't know. You can see the Hellcat logo there, and then notice got the stripe. So with the Jailbreak package, part of the package is you can add whatever options you want on it. It's a fully customizable Challenger, and you guys can see here with the specs on it. So just quickly talking about that, it's pretty cool that they let you, like, if you want a shaker hood, for example, you can do that on the Jailbreak, apparently. If you want, you know, custom interior and exterior paint colors, you can, like, there's so much stuff you can customize with the Jailbreak. If you want, like, specific details, I recommend going to the Dodge dealership so you guys can see, like, on the build list. But it is, like, the most customizable Challenger ever made, and so it's a pretty cool package. You see this one has like the TA stripes and all that, and you can see the calipers, what those are painted there with these against the silver wheels. Definitely a cool aesthetic. And again, that's kind of like the cool part about the Jailbreak is just how customizable this particular package is, and of course the crazy power. Now, popping over to the GT500, we have carbon fiber wheels because, again, this has the track pack. Notice the gigantic, and I mean gigantic, Brembo brakes, because you can see it like fills up the entire wheel. It's just crazy. But yeah, the carbon fiber wheels help out with the unsprung mass of the car, right? So when you have all four corners of the car significantly lighter from a weight perspective, it makes turning and everything a lot better. You got another Shelby logo. You can see aggressive side skirt action happening there. And just like the Challenger, you got big, wide, beefy tires. And so both of them kind of, from a driving perspective, do that kind of like tracking thing on the road because the front tires are so wide that they'll kind of like catch lines and stuff. But it's kind of just part of the driving experience with the cars. Now, popping back over here to the Jailbreak, notice that we have the older, and when I say older, it's like the original Hellcat spoiler here on the back with the SRT Hellcat logo. And then you can see here with the signature lights for the Challenger, got the Dodge logo there in the center. And then you can see you've got the kind of like rectangular exhaust tips. Got another signature there of the Challenger, which I think looks really cool. And overall, from a rear aesthetic perspective, I think it's a great looking car. And again, with the wide body package, it definitely makes things just a lot more aggressive with the car. And then you guys can see just how wide those tires are as well. Definitely another cool part of the Challenger. And you can see, again, 305s. They won't put 315s on it. It's so silly to me that they won't do that. Now, popping back over to the GT500, you guys can see the key fob here. It does have remote start. Both of them have remote start, by the way, because they're both automatics. Notice the Shelby logo there on the back. And, yeah, probably the coolest key fob that Ford has, even though it's like a regular Ford key fob, just because it's got the Shelby logo, right? And then you guys can see here with the different functions, like you can open up the trunk, for example, which, by the way, for being such a track-focused car, you guys will see this actually has, you know, pretty normal trunk, right? You expected it to be something different, but just normal Mustang trunk. So you can see here with the liner, and then also notice the spoiler, like how close that gets to the bodywork. It's kind of scary. But yeah, you can see here, you've got the bag of goodies that comes with the car from the factory. And again, storage space is good. It's not as good as the Challenger. I will say that. The Mustang doesn't have as much storage space there in the back as the Challenger, and the opening's not as practical as the Challenger. But, I mean, again, for being a 760 horsepower track-focused car, pretty cool. Now, again, this has the track pack, so we've got the giant carbon fiber wing, which, me being an off-road enthusiast and a track car enthusiast, I love it. I understand that for some people, especially if this was like your daily driver car, might be a little bit too much. But for me, I think it looks fantastic. And yeah, I'm a huge fan. I am a huge fan of the aesthetic of that. You guys can see you've got the signature sequential taillights there. Again, another giant Shelby logo, and then the exhaust tips. You guys heard the exhaust at the beginning of the video. Sounds ridiculous. And you can see the difference between that and a GT350 from an exhaust perspective and the diffuser and that whole setup. But that is the rear of the GT500 and then 350 as well. Now, popping back over here to the Challenger, popping to the interior of the car to be more specific, right? You guys can see here, you've got the padding there at the top of the door panel and then the stitching that goes throughout to contrast. And then down below, they've definitely brought up the interior of the Challenger quite a bit since the last like big refresh redesign with the car in 2015 when they, threw in the 8-speed automatic and, rehauled large portions of the car, even though it's on the same platform. And it's just, this interior feels definitely a lot more luxury-esque compared to like a 2015 Challenger when they redid it. You can see here at the seats, you've got the white on it. And you guys will notice that both of these actually have a very similar interior, funny enough. That they both have like the white interior with the black accenting to it. And yeah, overall, seats look fantastic. Really nice leather. They're very comfortable as well. And you notice the pedals down below definitely look great from an aesthetic perspective. You can see the light control just up above. Steering wheel is also power adjustable, of course, which is very important when you're paying like 6 figures for a car. And there you go, popping from that back to the GT500. It does have keyless entry, and you got blind spot monitoring in the mirrors. Challenger has blind spot monitoring as well, if you guys are wondering. But guess what? We have black and white with the interior with this car too. So they just so happened to match, which is kind of interesting. You guys can see all the trim. Now, from an aesthetic perspective, I will say the Challenger door panel, in my personal opinion, looked a little bit more high quality, but I like the seats here a lot more. Again, these are way more aggressive, right? Because they're kind of like bucket racing seats. That's just my personal preference. And so if you guys obviously don't like super aggressive seats, then you won't like these. But yeah, I think it looks so cool with the Alcantara and the white leather with the black leather. Just tons of contrast. They are manually fully manually adjustable though, so there is a downside. Pedals still look great. And then you guys can see the light control here with all the carbon fiber around it, another cool touch. And then the giant paddle shifters. Definitely prefer the paddle shifters on the GT500 compared to the Challenger. And then popping here to the interior of the GT500, because apparently when I edited this video, I mixed up the clips. I was supposed to put Challenger interior first and then GT500 interior first, but I guess we're doing it in reverse order. My bad. Anyways, you guys can see the steering wheel. You've got Alcantara over most of the steering wheel and then leather at the bottom, which I've always been confused about why they did leather at the bottom. I think maybe getting in and out of the car, like if you like scrape your pants against it or something. I don't know. Maybe that's why they do it. But and see, you've got normal practical car controls, navigation, all that fun stuff that's, again, nothing too crazy happening with that. I will say having the Alcantara steering wheel feels great unless your hands get sweaty. So maybe get some gloves when you drive the car. That makes it a much more pleasant experience from what I've done when I've owned cars with steering wheels like that. And then you guys can see here with the center gauge cluster, you've got the full digital gauge cluster, which is a cool part of the GT500. Definitely just lends to a more fun experience. Notice the different suspension modes and steering modes, and that's something that Ford does really well, is they let you just go through and customize everything. You guys will see you can do the same thing with the Challenger, but with Ford, they give you individual buttons for everything, so you can change the drive mode, which will change everything. Like you can see here, popping in track mode, changes the gauge cluster, changes the steering, changes the suspension, all that stuff. But then you can also go, oh, I just want to quickly change the suspension. Ford has a button for that. And I think that's definitely a big plus with going for a Ford over other brands like Dodge is just that, accessibility with changing certain parts of it. And I don't know, it feels cool when you pop into a car and you pressing a few switches to change like your steering and all that kind of stuff. Especially in the Mustang, since it has like the toggle switches, definitely, it almost feels like you're in an airplane. But you notice the change with the gauge cluster depending on the different drive modes. The track mode, in my personal opinion, looks the best. But overall, the different setups for the different drive modes, I think they all look great from an aesthetic perspective. Yeah, I don't know. I love that. And with the GT500, since it revs up so quick, it's a cool animation. Notice we've got, of course, the oil pressure and oil temperature gauges right there. And these center kind of an homage to older muscle cars. And then you've got all the carbon fiber around that. And then the vents on the other side. And I don't know, it's a cool looking thing. Now here's the infotainment system. You guys can see you've got Ford's. So in 2020, they upgraded the infotainment system. And this was before we had the 12-inch display that's available in certain 21s. And then a lot of the 22 Fords as well. But this infotainment system is still great. It's got good response time, and I feel like it's a decent size, right? I don't like 12-inch displays don't really do anything for me. I'm just like, oh, it's same functionality, but it's just bigger. It's cool that you can zoom in on the camera. Of course, if you want to tow, it's got the line. So if you want to tow something with your GT500, you are set. You've got the analog controls for the radio down below, climate controls. Notice no heated or cooled seats. You don't get that with the Recaro seats. Notice you got your drive mode select, and then right next to you got your exhaust mode select, which is very important. And you guys heard, there's a substantial difference between quiet versus the track exhaust. You can see the different modes that you can go into, which is great if you live in a neighborhood that's super strict or something like that with their regulations, so that you can not make your neighbors angry and not get stupid fines for having a loud car. And also, transmission selector is a dial, which was kind of controversial because Ford's putting this in a lot of vehicles, but it seems like Ford's kind of gone back because some of the newer cars don't have the dial shifter. But I don't have any gripes with it. It's I don't know, material use feels pretty nice on it, except for the plastic in the center. That's the thing that's funny about muscle cars is you'll have like really nice materials next to plastic. It's so strange, but it's kind of just like a muscle car thing. You can see decent storage space there in the center console. And notice again with the white accenting, and you guys can see this has no back seats. So that's part of the track package is the back seat delete. I think you can add it back in though. Got to have the GT500 plaque right there, which is another cool thing, gives you your chassis number and all that. And notice you've got the padding at the top of it and the carbon fiber down below. Definitely looks great from an aesthetic perspective. And definitely just makes the interior feel a lot more premium. But again, right below the carbon fiber, super plasticky glove box. So it's like, here's this nice material, and then here's a bunch of plastic right next to it. So it's always been interesting to me. And again, I just want to emphasize, I love the look of the seats. Now, got to look at the window sticker here for the Shelby GT500. Again, this is a 2020. This is the only GT500 I think I've reviewed on the channel, which, by the way, if you live in Utah and own one and want to let me review yours, I would be more than happy to do a full review on the car. But you guys can see there's different equipment that's standard with the GT500. Quite a bit actually comes standard with it. But the main option on this one, as you guys will see in a moment, is going to be the track package. And that's obviously what gives you the big wing, right? So you guys can see the carbon fiber track package. Look at the price on that. Crazy. But I will say, carbon fiber wheels. And I don't know what the prices are right now because COVID's obviously messed a lot of things up. But in the past, were like $5,000 a wheel. And so the package is actually a very good value. But, you know, again, it's still a pretty expensive option. But I think if you can get your hands on one, especially at MSRP, that would be just a crazy deal. If anyone threw that deal at me, I'd probably be dumb not to take it. But you can see the total MSRP there. $97,685. Yes, we live in a world where Mustang costs that much, but market adjustment on these things, they're going for like $150. I've seen some even upwards of like $200,000 again for a Mustang, which is just absolutely crazy. And then obviously fuel economy, 12 around town, 18 on the highway. Now going from this GT500 to the interior of the Challenger. You guys can see here with the steering wheel, again, you've got the Alcantara all around the steering wheel. Paddle shifters, which again, I'm just saying, they don't feel as nice as we have in the GT500. You got all your practical controls. I love how the SRT logo there is kind of illuminated in the center of the steering wheel. Definitely cool aesthetic. And then you got your regular turn signal, windshield wiper stock. And then you see the gauge cluster, so it's not fully digital. So if you kind of want more of like an analog appearance, then the Jailbreak will do that for you. And then you guys can see over there with the speed, it also goes up to 220. As for the center infotainment system, it's about the same size as the GT500s. Response time's pretty much the same. Functionality super similar. So I don't really have preference of one infotainment system over the other. I will say camera resolution on the Ford is a little bit better compared to the camera resolution on this. Notice it's got the red engine stop-start button. And then more stitching and all that down below. So again, they've really tried to bring up the interior on this to make it just look a lot more premium. But you've got the performance pages, which show you a bunch of different performance information. It's got like the dyno and all that kind of stuff to show you real-time horsepower and torque and your best 0 to 60 times, all that kind of stuff. Because again, the Challenger ultimately is all about straight line, speed, power, and performance. And you guys can see down below, we've got our analog controls for the radio, got your launch control, SRT mode, and then notice that you press that and it won't actually let me do anything. Dual zone climate controls, and then you can see here at the shifter. Now I do need to mention this Jailbreak does come with heated and cooled seats, right? It's got regular seats, so you do have that functionality. And you can see with the center console, the storage space, and then the stitching all around. And the interior on this definitely does feel like there's cooler materials in the GT500, in my opinion, in certain places, but this interior feels more upscale to me. And it has a premium headliner as well. So there's just a lot of things to bring up the interior here with the Jailbreak that just make it feel like a more expensive, more premium, more upscale car, which makes sense because this is ultimately like a crazy fast straight line car and then also like a GT muscle car cruiser, right? It's a car that you take on a long road trip, whereas I don't know if you'd want to take a GT500 track pack on a long road trip. You could, but it'd probably be pretty uncomfortable. And that gets me into summing things up. So here's what I have to say. If you want a crazy, fast muscle car that looks like a muscle car, that's super customizable, the Jailbreak will give that to you. And again, these cars are pretty similar in price with the options. Like, they're both around $100,000 roughly. Now, if you want something that is insanely quick, but also can handle and go around a track and is just like a fun track toy slash fun like street racer, that's what the GT500 will give you. The GT500 is not nearly as dailyable as the Challenger. Even like a regular GT500, they've gone so much into like the performance car segment with the Mustang that it's just not as like luxurious from a ride quality standpoint compared to the Challenger. So the Challenger, again, it's like luxury muscle car, which is not a bad thing. And then the GT500 is like sports muscle car. So it just depends on what you're looking for. And like I said, if you can get your hands on a GT500 track pack for MSRP, especially in this market, that is an absolute steal. And that is our comparison between those two cars. Let me know which one you guys would pick.